the actual recognition of the charter.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to begin this evening's meeting of the Salem City Council for January 25th, 2016, and we're actually going to open this evening with the special meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency. Would the recorder please call the roll?
Board Member Bennett?
Here.
Board Member Anderson?
Present.
Board Member Nanke?
Here.
Board Member McCoy?
Here.
Board Member Dickey is absent. Board Member Benjamin?
Here.
Board Member Bernards?
Here.
Board Member Lewis?
Here.
Chair Peterson?
Here. Thank you. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councillor McCoy, we need approval of the special meeting agenda.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the special meeting agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Member McCoy and seconded by Member Bednarz to approve the special meeting agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And now, Member McCoy, we need approval of additions and deletions to the agenda for the Urban Renewal Agency.
I move approval of additions and deletions to the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Member McCoy and seconded by Member Bednarz to approve the additions and deletions. Is there discussion or description of those additions and deletions? Yes.
The addition is basically adding explanation of the Northgate URA Toolbox Loan Program policies to the agenda, which is what we're discussing here in a bit.
All right. Thank you. All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. Do we have any reports from boards, commissions, or committees? Doesn't look like it. We'll move on to public comment. No one has signed up. Is there anyone in the chambers that did want to comment this evening on any item that's on this agenda for the urban renewal meeting? I don't think so. All right. We're just whizzing right along here. It's now time for the consent calendar. Member McCoy, do you have a motion for that?
I move approval of the consent calendar.
It's been moved by Member McCoy, seconded by Member Nanke. Is there discussion?
Bednarz was standing up.
Yes, this action item it involves transferring another $200,000 to the Northgate Urban Renewal Area's fiscal 15-16 funding, $100,000 to the North Gateway Toolbox Grant Program, and $100,000 to the North Gateway Toolbox Loan Program. This is a good thing. It indicates that there's activity going on in that urban renewal area with folks accessing both the grant and loan program to improve their their office buildings and places of business, which is what this is all about. So this added funding was something to keep that program going and the momentum in that area going.
Excellent. And we do encourage people to make good use of those grants and funds. All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I see no other business to come before the Urban Renewal Agency, and we are adjourned.
And there was much rejoicing.
All right, it's now time to call to order the Salem City Council meeting for January 25th, 2016. Would the recorder please call the roll?
Councillor Bennett?
Here.
Councillor Anderson?
Here.
Councillor Nanke?
Here.
Councillor McCoy?
Here.
Councillor Dickey is absent. Councillor Benjamin?
Here.
Councillor Bernards?
Here.
Councillor Lewis?
Here.
Mayor Peterson?
Here, thank you. We do need a motion to approve additions and deletions to the agenda. Councilor McCoy, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. I move approval of additions and deletions to the agenda.
It's been moved by Councilor McCoy and seconded by Councilor Bednarz to approve additions and deletions to the agenda. Is there discussion? Councilor Nanki. I'm sorry, Councilor Anderson.
You know, we're not even wearing the same shirts tonight,
Well,
which
from
we have
here-
done in the
from
past.
here they look alike.
We both have glasses on.
Brad?
Well, Brad is a very handsome man, so I'm happy to look like him.
Here, I'll do my fake bow tie.
And mine aren't fake.
Yes.
I'm going to make an amendment to the additions and deletions on the calendar, and if we, excuse me, on the agenda. If we look at new business under counselors' items, 9.2, this was my motion that I made on Wednesday morning because I believe that in order to have a motion on the calendar for a Monday meeting, you have to make that motion in writing by Wednesday morning. And my motion was to hold a public hearing on the police sighting and to remove 2 sites or concentrate only on 2 sites. That is commonly known as the Leslie Street site and the O'Brien dealership site, as to where we should be spending our time and energy and money. And that, in effect, that same motion was made at the work session. So I don't see any reason to have it on here to vote tonight.
That is amendment
Right,
to
okay.
additions, deletions?
Yes.
I'll second
Right.
that.
All right, so he's made a motion to
And-
withdraw his item from the...
Or to add it to the
agenda.
deletions.
And add it to the deletions, all right?
And
And
I-
that motion was seconded by Councilor.
And I don't know if the city attorney wants to say anything on that at all, because
I
I
don't
understand
think
there's a
so.
little distinction
All right.
between motions that can be made at the work sessions and motions that can be made and passed at the council meeting. But as a learned legal scholar told me today, this evening, in fact, I might be splitting hairs on that.
I'm not a learned legal authority.
There you go.
Well,
Thank
neither am
you.
I, but, you know, I want to make sure that that motion that we passed is a good, valid motion, and nobody, and, you know, if there's any question.
Yeah, we're fine. We're
Yeah,
fine.
okay,
We're
okay.
fine. Okay. Any other discussion on the approval of the agenda, or excuse me, of the additions and deletions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. We are
Moving right along.
moving right along on this one as well. Okay, it's now time for council and city manager comment. Do councilors have any comments? Councilor Bednarz.
So this Wednesday is a very important day for me and many other people, especially those who are homeless in our community. This coming Wednesday, there's going to be a shift in the morning starting at 8 o'clock and another one starting at 12. This is the annual homeless count that we do around our community, both in Marion and Polk County. It's put on or put with Community Action Agency. And I just said that each year of January, usually the last Wednesday of the month in January, this year happens to be on Wednesday, the 27th, Marion and Polk counties conduct a comprehensive count of homeless people. Thousands of individuals across both counties experience homelessness each year. The vast majority of these individuals for whom life has been dealt a crushing blow. Serious illness, abuse, addiction, inability to work, collapse of a family, and ultimately the loss of a place to live. The homeless count helps increase our understanding about homelessness, including information about the causes and impacts of homelessness. It provides us with information needed to plan and identify resources and services to help our individuals out of homelessness and prevent it in the first place. And its inaccurate homeless statistics are necessary to receive continued federal funding, almost $1 million in the homeless programs for Marion Polk County. There's a place that you can sign up. You can still do it. In fact, there's a training going on right now at the Nazarene Church on what to do in the camps when you meet up with the people who are homeless. But you can still volunteer. They'll train you on Wednesday morning. I would get a hold of Community Action Agency. They don't have a link on the website, but if you can call them tomorrow, they'll get you linked in with somebody if you're at all interested in doing this. This is my second year doing this. I found it fascinating last year, and I look forward to doing it tomorrow.
Thank you for doing that. It's vitally important that we identify as many people as we can who are in search of housing, and so if you know of anyone who might be able to assist with that homeless count, it truly is an important thing in our community. And Warren, I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. And pass that along to Mrs. Bednarz as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, other council comment. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to build a little bit on what Councilor Bednarz has said in his comments, in my first comment. On the 19th of this month, in the afternoon, I went to the meeting of the Community Services and Housing Commission, which, if we will recall, a few months ago, we combined two commissions into one commission. So I went there and listened to well over an hour of very interesting presentations looking for the block grant funds and other federal funds available, plus I think about $400,000 that is made available from the city for various private organizations in the city of Salem that are doing things to address these issues, among others. Some of them are addiction issues, which obviously has an effect on homelessness. Some of them are domestic violence type issues, which obviously has one. And others are veterans issues, Catholic community charities. They keep going on down the line of funding that we as the city can give to private agencies that are doing their best to address these types of problems in the city, and I think that's very important and crucial and vital. There will be a second round will be presented, I think, on February 3rd at the meeting of the commission, and I urge anyone who's interested to come, and you can have an opportunity to speak. And I also commend the commission, who ask very appropriate questions of all the people who are presenting, and they give appropriate answers. So I commend the I guess, is that urban development? Yes. So I commend the urban development department and all the staffers for working on that.
Great.
My second comment relates to a situation that is equally as troubling in my mind. In the Scan neighborhood, not in my ward, but it was in the Scan neighborhood. Part of Scan is in Councilor Bednar's ward, and I served 2 terms as president, 2 terms as vice president, so I'm very interested in that neighborhood. We had what could be called a number of things: an intimidation, discrimination, potential hate crime that was committed against a family that lived in the northwest corner of Scan. And this is a vile and disgusting thing, and it has no place in Salem or any place in our communities. So I want to commend the police department, Jerry Moore on down, for the sensitive way in which they handled things. I also want to commend the Scan neighborhood, who took action at their meeting to forcefully denounce this and seek whatever support that the rest of the city could give. And I also want to commend Gretchen Bennett, who's the staff person for the community. Yeah, I don't know. It's CRRR, and I'm not sure what the acronym is, but it's the Human Rights, Human Relations Commission on the city, for also taking action to meet with the family, to do what they can to offer them support. And I repeat that this should not happen in Salem or any place else in America.
Great. Thank you very much. Other comments? Councilor Nanke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say hi to my fellow counselors, since I didn't get the opportunity to call you last night, because I don't have to do that anymore.
We
And I
miss
was
you as
missing you. I
council
was missing you when I was cooking my steaks. And then I'd just like to thank Public Works for actually the handout that's on your desk this evening. It relates to one of the resolutions that's on our agenda, and I always think it's good for council to actually see an aerial versus a lot of times just looking down at a plat map or property lines, so we can really see what the impact of
Great.
our decisions are. So thank you.
Other comments by councilors? I have 2 comments, actually, and one is that last week I was able to attend a gathering in the Laux Auditorium, and former Mayor Mike Swain presided, and a large group from the community, a large group of people from the community, including from the city of Salem, Gretchen Bennett from the Human Rights and Relations, working with that committee, hosted an informational evening about refugees, and Salem will be receiving 50 refugees, and we do not know at this point where in the world they come from, but sort of traditionally to this region in Oregon and the Northwest, many of them come from countries in Africa and in around the Mediterranean area. So it was a very interesting, very informative evening, and I appreciated the city staff that had worked on that and those who were there at the auditorium to make that open and comfortable. And it was well attended. We have 245 seats in the Laux lecture auditorium, and every seat was taken and people were standing. So I felt very pleased with our community to see that kind of turnout of people who were interested to learn about this, and the information and the first-person accounts from people who have come here as refugees and resettled was very interesting. I'm really fortunate, I think, to live in a city where there is that kind of support for people who really need to flee where they live and need to find safe harbor. So that was one of our things last week. I also want to talk about something last week, which goes back to what Councilor Anderson was talking about. The City Council did meet in a work session on Thursday evening, and we conducted that work session to learn more about the proposed sites for the much-needed new police facility for the City of Salem. And the subcommittee had narrowed the choice to 4, and in our work session, we further narrowed to the sites that we're looking at to 2 sites. The 4 sites were windows to the west, which is just west of, to my left, of the City Hall. One of the properties is just south of City Hall. It's bordered by Leslie and Commercial and Liberty and Mission Street. The 4th one is the former O'Brien Auto Group site that's just north of downtown. And the 4th one is the downtown storage site, which is even further north on Liberty and Broadway. The City Council narrowed the site to 2 sites, that property known as Leslie, which is to our south, and the O'Brien site, which is to our north. So with that information now, the national consultants, the DLR group, will return to the city, to the council, further information about more specific cost information and design information about those 2 sites, and we will begin deliberation or further exploring those 2 sites. And we also have set for a work session, or no, it's not going to be a work session now. I have to look at my notes again. Where did I have that? Thank you. It's right on here.
Public hearing on the 29th.
It's right there. Thank you. There and there. So on February 22nd, we will hold a work session at 5:30 in the Anderson Room. And then on February 29th, we will have a special council meeting, and that's when we will have the public hearing. So we have all these things lined out, and everybody is still working away to hone in on the very best site. So that's the update that I wanted to share with council, with the public. And if anyone has questions, there was a press release that just recently went out, and you could call City Hall if you want directions about how to find this on the website, and then there's further information, I think, on our website. Okay, so that's what I have. Other councilors? City manager, do you have some comments?
Water is a basic city service that people don't think about until it's unsafe to drink. Friday, I had the opportunity to tour the city's laboratory, our testing laboratory, and I can tell you that we have employees who are very thorough and who are doing their job to ensure that Salem's drinking water is safe. I would like to ask Peter Fernandez, our Public Works Director, to provide you with a little more specificity on what those procedures are, what steps the city has taken over the decades to ensure that Salem's drinking water is safe to drink and will continue to be safe to drink.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Powers. Peter Fernandez, Public Works Director. Every year, we publish a consumer confidence report that goes out to every customer in the city of Salem and beyond, because we have customers beyond the city of Salem. And in there, we report what the constituents in our water are, and you know, what the safety or any I don't want to use the word violations, but any exceedances of standards. And I'm happy to report that our water is completely safe to drink. Our source is excellent. We are blessed with our forefathers in 1935 going out to the North Santiam River and acquiring the water rights that we have there at building the Guerin Island plant. So there's very little that has to be done. There's been a lot of concern over the Flint, Michigan issue, and there was an article in the Statesman Journal over the weekend, and that was very simply a violation of the federal lead and copper rule. And I see that in the, and that created then the issues that they have. The reason there's so much lead typically has to do with their water being too soft, their pH being too low, and then leaching lead from the pipes. I was happy to see that our water quality manager, Lacey Gores, was quoted in the article, and we are in full compliance with the federal lead and copper rule. In fact, we had an exceedance back in '06, and we spent money and installed the additives to our water, so that we simply raise the pH in our water. And by raising the pH, then the water doesn't leach lead. There's no lead in our pipes that we are aware of. The lead is in joints, in solders from houses that were built in the 80s. And that, therefore, is the issue. But we then treat the water that goes to the entire community to make certain that we're not leaching lead anywhere in the system. But I can assure you that our water is completely safe to drink. We follow every state and federal rule and continue to do so. We take that very, very seriously. And I think it shows by the fact that you don't see boil water issues, you don't see any concerns, and that will, that's our commitment to you, the council, and to the community as a whole.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Nanke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I chair the North Santiam Watershed Council, which is our feed water stock. And you know, we've actually received some of the highest rankings on our water quality this side of the Mississippi, if not, you know, nationwide. And there are potential times when things could get into our system, algae blooms or what have you, and we have staff that monitor those on a frequent basis as well, and they're doing front-end testing as well, to where that system would be shut down to where any nasty stuff would bypass our intake. We have enough storage capacity, depending on the time of year, to last a significantly long time, as well as several million gallons underground over near my house. Right. So we are very well served in our water supply system.
We are fortunate indeed. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad that Councilor Nanke mentions that. In fact, we've gotten calls on occasions. There are staff that has a boat trailer to a city truck, and that boat goes up to the Detroit Reservoir and is out there with employees. They're not fishing, they're taking samples of the water, and they do that. They do that on an almost daily basis, especially in the summer, when there's the potential for algae bloom. So we're well aware of our issues and address them as soon as we see them.
Excellent.
So thank you so much.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Appreciate that report. All right. If there are no further council comments, I'm going to move on to a proclamation. We have with us this evening Kathy Sunsone, and she is a representative of the Salem Assistance League of Salem-Keizer. And I want to tell you, we are really blessed to have an organization like Assistance League in Salem that is so actively working to provide services and programs for so many children and adults in our community. Come and join me here. Don't be shy. This is Kathy Sansoma. She is a member of Assistance League. I'm going to read this proclamation and then ask you to tell a little bit about what you have in your hand. Whereas the Assistance League of Salem-Keizer is a nonprofit, non-political, non-sectarian, 100% volunteer organization designated as a 501c3 charitable organization. Whereas the Assistance League of Salem-Keizer has provided aid to Salem residents for over 54 years. And whereas the Assistance League of Salem-Keizer has provided assistance to more than 45,000 high-need kindergarten through 12th grade students since its inception, with programs such as Operation School Bell, which provides new clothes, shoes, and books to children, the READ, R-E-A-D, which annually promotes literacy to 3,500 first graders since 1984. Operation Bookshelf, which partnered with Salem Public Library, provides books and videotapes monthly to homebound adults. Operation Art Adventure, which provides cultural experiences each year to more than 11,000 Salem-Keizer elementary and middle school students. Puppets with Purpose, which reinforces the Salem-Keizer K-3 curriculum by performing puppet shows about sensitive issues such as bullying. They have a dental program which helps fund the Salem-Keizer School District's dental education and screening program. The Independent Living program, which supports youth that are exiting from the foster care system. Operation Backpack, which provides school supplies to K-12 Salem-Keizer students, and birthday bags for children living in homeless shelters. Whereas the Assistance League of Salem-Keizer raises funds for the above projects through a variety of events throughout the year, including their annual lasagna lunch, which is in its 45th year and is being held this year on February 10th, 2016. Now therefore I, Anna M. Peterson, the mayor of Salem, hereby proclaim February 10th, 2016 as the Assistance League of Salem-Keizer 45th Annual Lasagna Lunch Day. I encourage all residents, join me in supporting the Assistance League of Salem-Keizer by enjoying a lasagna lunch on February 10th, 2016 at Willamette Heritage Center at the Mill. And I'm going to now ask Kathy if she'd like to add a few words to that and then tell us how to get tickets.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate the support of the city on this. And Mayor Peterson read out the 9 different philanthropies that we provide, the biggest of which is Operation School Bell, and that last year clothed more than 3,000 children in need, many of which are homeless. So it's a really good cause. And our biggest fundraising event now is Lasagna Lunch. We do it once a year. It's delicious. And we would love to see you there. Tickets are available from any Assistance League member at either one of our places of business that we operate, both the Dowie House Gift Shop and Encore Furniture, and at Roth's. So we hope to see you there, and we have special invitations for everybody.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome. And we'll give these invitations to counselors. I wanted to present to you this proclamation, which you may have at your club meetings to share with others. And I thank you for coming tonight. I'm going to give these invitations here.
Pass those around.
There we are.
Thanks, I got mine.
Really
There you go.
appreciate, Kathy, you coming.
Just
Thank
so
you
you get
so
more
much.
lasagna.
Thank you.
The question is how many times has the
All
recipe
right, so
changed?
go to lunch. That is a fun event. If you haven't seen your friends and neighbors lately, you will see them at the lunch. So it's a good thing to support. All right, we're going to have public comment. I wonder if anyone signed up. We do have. Wonderful. All right, we have 3 people who signed up, and if there was anyone else who's in the audience and you didn't get a chance to sign up, let me know after these 3 people have spoken. We'll start with Jason, Jason Biddle. Mr. Biddle? Yes? You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and at the end of 2 minutes, the amber light comes on, and at the end of 3 minutes, the red light comes on. And you will have to sort of speak right down into the microphone.
All right.
All right, welcome.
Madam Mayor and City Councilors, my name is Jason Biddle, and I live at 1142 23rd Street Northeast, and I am a resident of Ward 6. I want to thank the Council for commissioning the review of driver and pedestrian crashes in Salem. This is a significant topic for both my wife and I as we ride, walk, and run in Salem on a daily basis for both utility and pleasure. I am very appreciative our City Council is willing to engage on this topic. As my wife and I travel around Salem on foot and by bike, we consistently experience or observe incidents that could result in tragedy. We stand at crosswalks with our foot in the street, signaling intent to cross as driver after driver passes without hesitation. We have been honked at, screamed at, and driven at more than once. While cycling, we have to evade drivers using the bike lane as a turn lane or aggressively passing with inches to spare. These experiences are all the more frightening when one considers the fundamental physical disparity between a motor vehicle and a vulnerable road user. Research has shown that if a pedestrian is struck by a vehicle traveling at 20 miles per hour, they have a 90% chance of surviving. If that vehicle is traveling only 10 miles per hour faster, the pedestrian survival rate drops to 50%. At 40 miles per hour, a mere 10% of pedestrians survive a collision. Particularly for the pedestrians in this report killed in crosswalks during times of limited visibility, why does the report never list vehicle speed as a contributing factor? Driver behavior plays a critical role in averting collisions with pedestrians. Is the design of our streets consistent with the behavior and the outcomes we expect? Salem is a great place to live. I desire to see it become even better as a place where people of all ages and abilities may confidently travel using a variety of modes. You have likely heard of the Vision Zero project, which seeks to eliminate traffic fatalities and serious accidents. While we cannot eliminate all possible risk, it is an aspirational goal that has seen great success in other cities in our state, country, and around the world. I believe that many future fatalities and serious injuries could be avoided through the change in mindset this project offers. Human life and health ought to be of paramount importance when considering our transportation system. We know humans are fallible, so we must design a system that mitigates the possibility of error and the potential for harm when it does occur. I would be encouraged to have something as tragic as this report of fatalities and injuries to be a catalyst in our city's conversation regarding Vision Zero. Thank you again for commissioning this report, and thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate your testimony. Are there questions? Councilor Anderson.
Mine is more of a comment, Jason, and I want to thank you and the next person who testifies, your wife, for coming down. You were present at the Nesca neighborhood meeting, and you raised this issue, and I said, come on down and testify to the council and read the report, and you've obviously done both of those things. So thank you very much for your citizen involvement, and I repeat, I would say the same thing to your wife when she testifies too. So we really appreciate you coming down for this.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Other questions or comments from councilors? All right, thank you. Emily Biddle, followed by Ron Sturba. Welcome, and you'll have 3 minutes. 2 minutes, the amber light comes on. At the end of 3 minutes, the red light comes on.
Madam Mayor and City Councilors, my name is Emily Biddle, and I live at 1142 23rd Street Northeast. I'm Jason's wife. Over the last couple years, my husband and I have slowly been ditching our car for more and more of our weekly trips. We go on runs just about every morning before work. We both bike commute to and from our respective jobs. We often visit stores downtown on Saturdays, and we walk downtown for church every Sunday. This adds up to multiple pedestrian and cycling adventures a day, often 7 days a week. Based on this and the number of close calls we've experienced, I would like to address a couple things I found to be interesting in this report. Often in these discussions, we look for a group on which to pin the blame for fatalities. I am concerned with the frequency dark clothing is cited as a contributing factor, as the color of an individual's apparel, while at times perhaps unwise, is not a legal issue, nor should it be. Since the victim is no longer with us to explain why they stepped out in front of a car, we are left with one story and the work of investigators to determine the story of the individual lying under the tarp. It feels like the tone of the report leans heavily on presumed pedestrian action or inaction as contributing factors without considering what might have been taking place inside the vehicle. In my experience, it is difficult to predict the actions of drivers at night. Drivers roll through crosswalks, roll stop signs, don't look both ways, and are difficult to make eye contact with due to tinted windows and the glare of the headlights. Drivers will appear to slow at intersections, but often it is impossible to know if they will actually stop for you. But to declare intent to cross, you must be in the street. Let's not blame the victim when their story can't be told. Secondly, I would like to highlight the fact that our community has an issue with yielding to pedestrians and crosswalks. Between the 2 enforcement projects highlighted in the report, 124 citations were written for a failure to yield to pedestrians. Digging deeper, I learned that the June 8th enforcement project lasted 6 hours and cited 65 drivers a failure to yield. That's roughly 1 failure every 5.5 minutes in a marked crosswalk. I find it disturbing that 4 out of 10 fatalities or serious injuries last year occurred in crosswalks where pedestrians have right-of-way, and yet no citations were given. Even more confusing to me is that this did not make it into the summary of significant contributors, even though it occurred with the same frequency as other factors. I applaud the city for the recent crosswalk and pedestrian upgrades, thank you, but pedestrian infrastructure is only valuable if drivers respect it. Salem is a beautiful city to traverse on foot or by bike, but until we change our city's culture that says that people in crosswalks aren't important, that car volume through intersections is more important than the safety of those on foot, more of us will die. Thank you for requesting this report. Please do what you can to make our streets safer for all of us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any questions? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming down. Ron Sturba?
I've heard of him.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Councilors, City staff, and citizens. I'm here to talk a little bit about the 25th and Madrona intersection. It's really important that we tell the citizens of this city that they're going to close the intersection down for 4 to 5 months. City staff says 15,000 cars go through that intersection every day. Cars got to go somewhere. That means 25th and Mission, 22nd and Mission, 12th Street and Mission. We're going to have lights changed in their timing to be able to handle all the traffic. ODOT on I-5 is going to have to post signs for a recommendation for people in South Salem to go ahead and use the Kubler Road exit instead of Mission because they can't get through Madrona and 25th. I grant you, McGilchrist is going to be open, but that's a business district. So you're going to mix a lot of business with residential, and there's no bike lanes on McGilchrist. So we have a really big issue here, and we want to see signs posted soon telling the residents of this city that there's going to be some real congestion. 15,000 cars through an intersection, and you're going to tell them they can't come. So they're going to go throughout the whole city. So at this point, I'm going to ask that the folks here in the city, staff, come together and put together a program, a meeting with the neighborhood associations and ODOT to review this as quickly as we can to get those signs posted and alternate routes listed. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from councilors? Councilor Nanke and then Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. More just comment, and we've started actually notifying people of that. I'm sure staff will be working with ODOT as well. And as far as diverting people onto, Kubler is going to actually be under construction at the same time. They'll be adding the second eastbound lane. So traffic is going to bite a little bit this summer. And Mission will take the brunt of it with 12th and 13th. So, yeah, we definitely need to make people aware. I remember when 12th Street was shut down, people were diving through everywhere and actually coming up Bluff and running into a dead-end cul-de-sac and getting teed off. But we will have appropriate signage. We will do mass notification as we get a little closer to that. And don't look forward to it, but I look forward to the results when it's done.
One item, if I may add, Counselor, is that as the summer progresses and the intersection's still closed, there's a lot of trucks delivering vegetables, fresh vegetables to NORPAC. So we need to get these deliveries, and the companies who deliver, that this is a challenge for them, and they need to come into alternate routes.
Mr. Sturba, I can assure you that we're already working with the businesses along Madrona and on 25th. And in fact, a large part of this project is to benefit the movement of all of that. And we've been working for the last, I'm going to say 2 years, and I'll bet it's a lot longer than that. Director Fernandez, would you like to say a little bit? I know we're not tonight wanting to dwell a lot on this because we've got other things on the agenda.
And that's not really the point of the agenda item either.
Right, well.
Just very briefly,
Just to
Mayor,
say-
I appreciate Mr. Sturba's concerns. We have already notified businesses. We are in the process of notifying neighborhood associations. Signs will be up. Ads will be placed in the paper. Much work will be done to notify drivers of this issue. We do not take lightly the fact that we are closing a major intersection, but it's the difference between getting the work done in 1 year or getting the work done over 2+ years.
Right.
So the decision was made. It was not made lightly, but the decision was made to make the closure so that we can get in and get out just as quickly as we possibly can.
With the savings of near $1 million as well.
With the savings of near $1 million. Thank you, Councilor.
That's wonderful. Councilor Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, just a comment. I agree with what others have said about what the city has done, and I don't know, 8 months ago, I suppose, some of the councilors had a meeting with Director Fernandez to discuss this, and it was very clear that in the long run, it's much better to do this, close everything down to do it in one construction season rather than have disruption for 2 construction seasons. I guess the other thing I want to say, Mr. Sturba, is I'm real happy to see you down here not talking about streetlights. Maybe there was some lighting issue that could help us here. I don't know. But thanks for coming down
All right,
for this.
thank you very
initiative.
much. Thank you.
As we build that stretch, we should really look at the lighting specifications.
All right, was there, no, that's it, thank you. Was there anyone else in the chambers that wanted to speak? Yes, would you please approach the podium and tell us your name and your address or your ward, and you have 3 minutes. At the end of 2 minutes, the amber light comes on, and at the end of 3 minutes, the red light comes on.
Okay. This is my first time here, so I'm not real familiar with it. I'm kind of nameless, faceless, addressless because I'm one of the homeless and never thought I would be.
Can you state your name, though? It's part of our council rules.
Jane Doe, and I don't even know what the wards are here. I'm just homeless.
All right.
I just want to make one comment on the city manager approving the homeless initiative. I hate to kind of break the momentum, but I'm really disappointed in this. I think you're way far behind. I don't see what you could do in a year. This shouldn't have been done 5 years ago. I can tell you from being out on the streets for a very short time, because I don't live in this state, but I'm forced to stay here without a place to stay. There are people who have those answers immediately, and it should not take a year to go over this when cities have gone over it before and before and before, and there are mayors' alliances doing this. So I would like to see the issue addressed, but I would like to speak about it in a little bit different way instead
All right.
of just initiative. And to exclude anybody from that community is really kind of all the more insulting. So, thank you.
Okay, are there any questions? All right, thank you. Thank you for coming down. We appreciate your testimony. All right, we are now going to move on to the consent calendar. Councilor McCoy, do you have a motion for us?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move approval of the consent calendar. We got one with following poll, 3.3A by Councilor Bednarz.
Second.
And that's it, one poll?
One poll.
All right.
I know you're shocked.
I am.
See, I'm a tough guy when I call them on Sunday nights.
I think you must have been so, yes. Yeah.
Just one question on one of...
Wait a minute. Oh, I just want to know if someone had seconded that. I didn't hear. Councillor Nanke seconded it. Yes, Councillor Bennett.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had one question on the application of funding for the Energy Trust of Oregon for replacement of the biogas generation system at Willow Lake Waste Pollution Control Facility. Had a constituent contact me today asking about sort of how is this going to be done, and I just wanted to check in because apparently, and this is not my area of expertise at all, but there are different kinds of cogeneration engines or whatever these things are, and I just wanted to make sure that this was going to be kind of a wide open process. So I wondered if it'd be okay if the Public Works Director just described briefly the process.
Certainly.
So, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor. Yes, as you can see from the report, our existing engine is a Waukesha engine. It was state-of-the-art when it was installed in the mid-'80s. It is way past its prime. The spit, the chewing gum, and the baling wire are wearing out. So the plans are to build a new facility for it that we will actually fit. We'll have the ability to fit 2 engines, and it will go from a 600 kilowatt engine to a 1 megawatt engine. The engine will produce, when we're producing the right amount of methane gas, we'll be able to generate up to 80% of the electrical needs of the Willow Lake plant, and we will produce heat both for the administration building and for the digester. So it is a significant improvement in sustainability and environmental awareness. The good news in this staff report is that the Energy Trust of Oregon is willing to fund 2/3 of. So this is a $9 million project, and the application that we will submit will be a $6.1 million application. So the city will have significant benefits from it. In response to your question specifically, all of our purchasing is done via bidding process. So we will specify the project. We are always careful to specify things that we buy so that it is open and competitive so that we get the best prices. So I can't tell you today what kind of engines are out there, but we will make sure that that we get the best possible engine and that we get the best possible price for the engine. And if there's more than 1 kind or 2 kinds or 5 kinds, all will be available for us, and it'll be the lowest bid will be awarded.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, certainly.
And Mayor, if I had, if I could do one more, I'd like to introduce our Willow Lake manager who just started with us on November 30th. I thought this would be the appropriate time. So Jue, if you would stand up. Jue Xiao is our new manager. She started on November 30th. She came to us from Grand Island, Nebraska, and prior to that, she received her PhD in environmental engineering at the University of Florida, and has been in the business, I think, for over 10 years. Is that right?
And for those who may not be familiar with our terminology, Willow Run is the city's wastewater treatment plant.
Yes. So, we've welcomed her. She's doing a great job for us, and it's just been a great addition to the team. So,
Well, we welcome you. We're
Welcome.
very pleased to have you with us.
I know, Mayor, you wanted a tour. Other councilors that want a tour, all you have to do is
Need to do that.
just type in JUE in your email. Jue's email will come up, and you can ask her for a tour anytime.
Excellent. We will be heading right out there. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just don't go during beet season.
All right. We are sort of in the middle of the consent calendar. We had one poll, 3.3A, and one item to discuss. Is there anything else on the consent calendar that anyone wanted to pull or discuss?
Madam Mayor?
All right, Councillor McCoy.
Would like to go through and explain to the public some of the issues we're dealing
Thank
with on
you.
the consent calendar.
right.
3.2A, we're going to renew off-street parking permits, and specifically the continuation of a $3 daily parking garage permit fee for part-time and part-time seasonal employees downtown. It was due to end, and so we're going to extend that because the staff said we got some pretty good use out of that, got some more folks using the garage and parking downtown. We're initiating an eminent domain condemnation proceeding related to the 25th Street and Madrona Avenue Southeast Improvement Project, specifically an extension of 22nd Street Southeast to Madrona Street, connecting to Madrona Street to give more access north and south to Gilchrist. And there's two lots there that we're going to have to deal with moving forward. And then we've got, as Peter Fernandez just lined out, application for funding, approval for the application for funding from the Energy Trust of Oregon for replacement of the biogas cogeneration system at Willow Lake Water Pollution Control Facility for $6.1 million.
Excellent. All right. All those in favor of the motion with regard to the consent calendar signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We will now move to the public hearing, and the city recorder does not need to introduce it, and I simply need to remind everyone that the public hearing was closed and there is no further testimony, and so we will move to a motion and then deliberations. And I believe that Councillor Bednarz has a motion prepared for us.
Since it's rather a lengthy one, it has been written up and then been handed out to all the members of the council and our city recorder. So I here do move the 8 conditions be added to this development, and I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Just to clarify, you move to approve the application with the 8 conditions?
With the 8 conditions, thank you. Move to approve the application with the 8 conditions.
All right, is there a second? Second. All right, it's been moved by Councillor Bednarz and seconded by Councillor Dickey. And is there discussion? Councillor Bednarz. So
of the eight conditions that were down here, we spoke at length last or 2 weeks ago in reference to this issue, and we've come up to, from what we can tell, the applicant has agreed to all these conditions. The new one that was added on the very end is that along the RS zone on the northeast corner of that lot, they limit the height of the structures there to 2 stories, not 3. The issue there was line of sight into the neighbors' backyards, and it looked like that would probably solve the problem. The other conditions are still there: an 8-foot wood fence, green bushes and trees put between the development and the neighbors, and access to the park, blocking the access to Music Street, that kind of thing. The rest of the ones that we talked are still there. The big one is that it limits it to two stories.
All right. Are there any questions? Is there further discussion regarding this item? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I'm in support of this, and I have to tell you that I know among informal discussions among all the members of the council that individually, not in any sort of, and it hasn't happened since the actual hearing 2 weeks ago, this was a case that caused a lot of concern, I think, to a lot of people, because there are very good arguments that could be made on either side. I think that what the law talks about is that the proposed change would be equally or better suited for the current use of the property. And I think that with these amendments proposed, or conditions proposed by Councilor Bednarz, that's what happens here. I really look at this and say, if we really want to put, if we're really serious about housing density, if we're really serious about putting housing in places where we can walk and bike and use other means of transportation and public transportation, this development fits all those things. So I think it's also good for the city as a whole, and putting a development like this in that area, and the conditions really take care of, I think, of the major issues that were raised by the neighbors and the people who spoke against this.
All right, Councillor Nanke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I went back and read through the entirety of this mess as well. Always concerned with criteria. And as I look through it on that one specific section that Councilor Anderson just commented on, it has to meet one or more of the criteria. The applicant wouldn't have even needed to fill out A sub 3, and they would have been conformant with that section for the zone change conditional use element of that, which I found rather interesting as well. That being said, as I read back through, there was more specificity in staff's review of the previous decisions in 97. And then always knowing that a council can't bind a future council, my concern is always that did we promise something to somebody and then nobody finished that process as far as documenting it and we get beat up, and no one at the public hearing had actually commented in the respect that they had heard something back in 97. I was around and I remember when it happened. I just couldn't remember enough of it. But again, looking at the staff report, it did say all of it is here. If you want any of it, let us know, which is always tough when we see stuff, on Friday or on the weekend, depending on what your schedule comes into, and then you're trying to digest 150 pages of fairly technical material. So anytime we can get those out early is a good thing as well. So, but I fully support the motion. I really like the additional comment that actually sets back an extra level further from the properties as well. So, thanks for everybody's work on that.
Excellent. Other councilor comments? All right, then the motion is on the floor, and it was made by Councilor Bednarz and seconded by Councilor Dickey to move the approved application with the conditions as you see in front of you, 1 through 8. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Good gavel axe in there, Mayor.
All right. Hey, I'm with it tonight, I'll tell you.
Pretty sweet hit.
We'll now move to special orders of business, which is item 3.3A. And Councilor Bednarz, I believe you have a motion on this item as well.
Well, I'm sure I can find it on my desk someplace, but I move staff recommendation.
Okay.
It's been moved by Councilor Bednarz and seconded by Councilor, was it Nanki? Thank you. Is there discussion? Councilor Bednarz.
It was interesting that Ms. Doe up here took the wind out of my sails, because it was exactly this. It says that our next meeting, or the first meeting of this particular committee, will happen on the 17th of February. I think it should have happened, as she said, 5 years ago. And I just, all I'm going to say, I don't think we have enough time to get to it fast enough. But I know that the process has to take place, and there's a lot more than just the city of Salem at play. In fact, this came up in front of us 2 weeks ago just to say we approved putting this process together. This document actually does put this process together now, and it's in conjunction with not just Salem, but Keizer, Marion County, Polk County. You're going to have some very good people in very good positions of knowledge of how to get things to come together to help solve, or at least reduce or do something to homelessness in our community.
Right. Well, I appreciate your comments, and I don't want anyone to think that in any of those jurisdictions or in the city of Salem that we have not been grappling with the issue having to do with the homeless, because we have been all along. We've certainly been part of the consortiums with Community Action Agency and with the Union Gospel Mission and Salvation Army and so many of those of the shelters, and we have been providing money as well as time. And what we're facing now is the same thing that's being faced by people, by cities and counties across the nation, and that is a real spike in the number of people who are homeless. So the amount of money and the number of shelter beds that were in the community even then were, really kind of stretched from time to time. The spike in the number of homeless has really created a greater need for our diligent attention and our joining together with the other jurisdictions, and we believe that way we're going to be more successful than we all were separately grappling with. And I want to thank Councilor Bednarz for serving on that initiative with me. I want to thank the city staff and the police department, as well as the city manager, for the support we're gaining to actually participate. And I saw a hand. Councilor Bennett, followed by Councilor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just really briefly on it, I really want to congratulate you on this approach. Seeing the correct resources at the table, I think, is really important. We have tried for years to be participants in this. Councilor Anderson described his visit to the old Social Services Commission, and we have done that. You'll get to do your part during our budget cycle on this issue. We'll put out $500,000 into this particular batch, into this arena, but we just can't do it with $500,000, and it's a stretch. And so much so many of the issues associated with homelessness go beyond the capacity of a city like Salem to handle it. It's just, it's such a complicated issue. I would like to, though, follow up on, and I know you'll do this, but I just want to mention it. I thought Jane Doe's comments were well taken, in that I know you will do this, but bringing homeless people, I think, to the table, particularly, I'm really intrigued by a recently homeless person and a long-term, kind of what are these issues? What brings this to the, into our community, and then how are we dealing with it, and what are we missing, and what are the ideas that are found from their experience. I just think it adds a dimension that I hope will be included, and I'm sure it will. I know you'll do that, but I just want to tell you that I think that's real important. I thought you made a good point.
Great. Thank you very much. Councilor Dickey, followed by Councilor Anderson. I'm sorry, Councilor Lewis, then Councilor Dickey, then Councilor Anderson.
Yeah, I'll just echo what others have said, but I would like to request, because of the importance of this issue, that the City Council be noticed on the meetings. I know the first one is on the 17th, but it doesn't say where, but I think it's important enough to have the council, if not participate, at least follow the progression of the issue, and so I'd like to request that the council be noticed on the meetings.
All right. We certainly would. All of the meetings are open to the public and will be noticed on our calendar and publicly. I believe the newspaper is also tracking when we'll be reporting when they're coming up. Councilor Dickey.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited about this. This has been something that, when I first started on the council, we kept talking about the 10-year plan to end homelessness, but it was all us. And so, and now here it is, probably pushing 10 years later, and we're just getting some traction on this. So I'm really excited. A couple of things that I see on here, looking at this charter, that I don't see, and I know it's just some examples, but where it talks about families with children mentally ill, victims of domestic violence. I'm particularly concerned that youth are addressed at some point in this process. Homeless youth are, it's a different group to work with than you think about people with families. I've worked with kids for years and years and years, and it took me a while to really try to wrap my brain around what that meant to be a homeless youth. A lot of these kids are they're disenfranchised from their families for any number of reasons, and it's a different set of issues, just as you look at, somebody with mental illness versus someone, who's lost their job. So I hope they're included in that list. And so kind of to that end, when we're looking at what civic leaders are involved in this process, I'd like to know if the school district, if you have any leaders from the school district involved, and if not, is that something that, is there anyone there that would have any interest in lending some perspective to this group?
Yeah, the school district is definitely going to be involved. Each of the jurisdictions, each of the 4 jurisdictions, it has named 5 individuals to the actual task force, and beyond that, we have been developing, and so we've been working right along. We've been developing a list of people and agencies that will be resources to the task force. So we've been very diligent about seeking out experts, individuals and organizations that have been working on these issues. And I can assure you that the youth are a very front of mind because of the particular needs and the urgency for them. They're so vulnerable, and that's a growing population as well. So absolutely. And if that wasn't in the first report, that list may not have been as an attachment, I don't remember. But all of that we will get kind of in a packet for each counselor. Okay,
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the council's support. I really do. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you very much. I think you sort of replied to my question in response to Councilor Dickey's comments, but I note that the enabling legislation says each jurisdiction can appoint 5, and
Yeah,
so
we
I
do.
presume on your list of appointments, it's you and Councilor Bednarz, but you have made the other appointments?
Yes, the appointments for the city of Salem have been made already.
Okay.
And they include our police chief, and they include 2 others, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head, 2 or 3 others. What I'll do is we'll make sure that everybody gets the
I
list.
think we saw that, but I didn't see it here, so I was just a little concerned.
Yeah, I
And
don't think it's here, but we'll be sure that all
Okay.
counselors and
Right. So I think
and
this
the
is...
public, it's all public information, and we're putting all that out to the public.
I think it's terrific, and I echo the comments of all the other counselors that it's time we do something, and we're doing something, and this is a great idea. So
Great.
thank you
Thank
all,
you.
people involved.
Thank you, thank you. All right, other questions or comments on this item? Councilor Bednarz.
I just wanted to conclude with a comment of mine. I've never been, I guess I'm fortunate enough to have never been homeless, never have to have ever faced that. I have taken a youth that stayed with us for 3 months before we got him home. So I've kind of watched the process, what happens to young kids, and agree. I think the best thing that we in this council or we on this committee can do to start with is to educate ourselves as to what resources are out there, because there are so many. There are actually so many, but they're not exactly coordinated.
That's it.
Dallas, as an example, has a program where there are a lot of co-located services in one location. It's just one of many things. That's why I went to the VA hospital in Portland. That's why I went to the VASH program over here on shipping for homeless adults daytime program. That's why I've been to the Home Resource Center. That's why I'm going to do what I'm going to do on Wednesday. I just believe it really is imperative that we educate ourselves first as decision makers, then take the best practices that are out there and adapt them to our own community to the resources that we have here. So, I mean, I have a game plan. I know others have a game plan, and I'm going to give this one a lot of effort.
I
So I look forward
appreciate
to it.
that, and I know that it's not the first time that you and your family have been supportive of issues having to do with the homeless, and not the first time that you've worked directly with people in need. So I appreciate you coming alongside me to be our representatives, and I think we're going to actually do some pretty good work. Pretty excited. We are definitely going to be looking at successful models from other parts of the country, and looking seriously at how we might replicate some of those. So it's good. It's a very, I think it's a good solid start, but lots of work to do. Okay, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. There are information reports in your council agenda. Were there any questions about the information reports or anything that councilors wanted to bring forward from those? I see hands up. I don't know which hands were first, so I'm going to do this starting with Ward 1. Councilor Bennett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to just comment on the vehicle pedestrian crashes.
Okay.
I'm hoping, number one, we can find a new name for that, because it sounds like there's a real big loser in that description at this point. And particularly as I listened to the testimony describing survivability of accidents beyond 20 miles an hour and what happens. Madam Mayor, I thought this was an excellent report. I really compliment the traffic staff as well as the police department for the work done on this. It had a lot of really interesting information. I'm still reading it to get out of it, I think, what's there. I think there is a lot there. One of the things I'd like to highlight, because it has come up in discussions I've had at my neighborhood groups, I want to kind of follow up on this. It's sort of a close call. We sort of focused on the folks who were killed, obviously, and should. It's just horribly sad that this has happened in this community. But the question was, what are the close calls like? Well, I think we've got a feeling in here for what it looks like, and it's from that June 8th and September 23rd enforcement project. When you look at those numbers for a few hours, and I've seen it, I think all of us have seen these in action. I saw them down by the Capitol when they were first doing this, when the law changed, and if you stepped into the crosswalk, you were to stop. Well, the police did some enforcement actions. They were swamped down there. Apparently, it's still a problem. If you can, on 2 kind of random days, go out and deliver 21 warnings, 63 failure to yields, and one day, and 61 on the other. Then there's some other stuff going on in here. Passing a stopped car in a crosswalk. That's one that I think all of us have experienced, where you peek around the car when you go into 3 or 4 lanes just to make sure you're not going to get hit coming out from behind it. I hope we do more and more and more of these, because I think this is the kind of enforcement action that reminds people of how this system works. And this is daylight. This isn't like people walking around in black clothes at night or any of that. This is people trying to just cross the street. And this got driven home to me in an email exchange I had, I think, with one of Councilor Anderson's constituents, who was concerned about the 12th Street flashing light because it was causing people to stop on 12th Street. And it was just interesting to have this discussion, because it was like, well, why can't these people walk down to a normal street light and use that to cross the street? And yeah, or use the overpass and not cause, and then there was a batch of others. Well, what they were complaining about was someone would walk up to the street, push the button instead of stick their foot out into the street. Either way, you have to stop. And apparently, this driver did not understand the rules, that if you come upon a marked or unmarked crosswalk and a pedestrian, or others, I guess, but pedestrians primarily are moving into it, you got to stop anyway, with or without flashing lights. I really appreciate the work that Public Works has done in my ward. But then I listened to the comments today, and I began to feel kind of guilty. I feel like I'm setting up sighting mechanisms throughout my ward as we put up crosswalks that people think they're safe in crossing. I'm really excited about getting a flashing light on Market and 19th because I watch every day, several times a day, because my office is near that flashing light on 12th, and it works. It just plain works. It works to the dissatisfaction of some motorists who complain about it, but we just can't have this many people killed, dark clothes or not, you know what I mean? Impaired or not. The other that was kind of shocking was how many walkers were impaired. It was kind of like, are you kidding me? You know, how do you get into this situation? Or the skateboarder that hits a car, that kind of stuff that is, it's just really awful. And it also, I think, one final point I think that is really helpful for us, and Mr. Sturb has done a great service talking to us about it and keeping in front of us, and Mr. Fernandez and getting the job really underway, are the street lights. That the ability for a driver in a crummy evening to at least get a glimpse of somebody is an enormous help, and streetlights, I think, are an enormous help in that way. But there's just so much in here. You kind of want to keep going. I'll stop, but because I know others have things they want to point out in this. But I thought this was just a great report. You guys did a really good job. And I really look forward to seeing you out. You can do enforcement in my ward anytime. Come on down, and because it seems to be in my ward. Well, it seems in my ward, I'm starting to lose voters to this thing. I'd like to start having you come in and chase these people around a little. So thank you very much for this. This was really good.
Okay. All right. It looks to me as though Chief Moore, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Sergeant Bales.
Sergeant Bale? Sergeant Bale, thank you for being here this evening. It looks like you two have moved into position to give us a report. Either that or you've come over to observe Councilor Bennett very closely.
Which is a very good thing.
idea. We second that.
I did see Councilor Anderson's hand up. Did you want to say something
Yes,
before
ma'am,
they
I did.
begin? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
I can, and I presume what we're going to do is, since this is the first issue raised, we're going to have everybody who wants to discuss it now and then move on to another agenda
I
item.
think so. We're sort of ad-libbing here.
Well, it's doing a good job. I want to echo what Councilor Bennett has said and emphasize a few other things. The first one is, I think Councilor Bennett and I also got an email from someone who is in his ward, but it's an intersection in my ward, and that's 17th and 17th and Chemeketa. And you know, that was the near misses that were talked a lot about by Ken Adams, and I think that might be part of the record. I thought I saw it someplace, but yeah, it is. Okay. So I also think that this is clearly an education issue that we're talking about, and that to me dovetails quite nicely into the Vision Zero project. You've heard the Biddles mention that today, and I just want to say that just from the little bit I looked at it, and I talked to Chief Moore and Director Fernandez about it, you know, their motto is no loss of life is acceptable. And the road system is designed to keep us moving, but it also must be designed to protect us at every turn. I suspect that's a pun intended there, if not. And the cities of Chicago, New York, San Francisco, Boston, LA, Austin, Portland, Seattle, San Jose, Santa Barbara were a real quick look that I could see of cities that have adopted this. And it's an aspirational goal. And realistically, nobody expects we're going to have 0 traffic deaths by the year such and such. We're always going to have those. But in working toward this as an aspiration, I think we can go a long way to reduce that. So I would appreciate at some future point some additional report about what is Vision Zero, would it work here, how might it work here. The other thing about the impaired walkers is that, yes, they were impaired, but they were in I think the impaired walkers were not, jaywalking, even though I know that's not illegal in the city. So, they were there where they were supposed to be. Now, the fact that they were impaired, maybe they couldn't move as quickly to avoid the car that hit them in a place they were supposed to be. I'm not sure, but I look at the enforcement projects, and it's clearly we need more. And that clearly shows that this is a real need and a real concern, because like Councilor Bennett said, on a random day, 2/3 to 3/4 of the things you see are a failure to yield to pedestrian. Then I look at page 2 of the report, where there's a discussion of the general issues, and one of them is poor limited visibility in 4 of the 10 crashes. Well, of all the factors listed, intoxication, dark clothing, violation of regulation, that factor, poor and limited visibility, is the only one that is under control of the city. We can control what happens there at those intersections, and I was glad to see the reference to the streetlight fee, because hopefully, once that fee is up and operating, it's supposed to produce some additional lights, and perhaps those additional lights might be indicated to go at the places where we can see the problems. The final thing I have about the report is that it's a very impressive list of items that have been done. And it's a very impressive list of items that are scheduled or hope to be done in the future. But again, what this tells me is we got a problem here. if we do all of these items to remediate things and we still have a problem, I think that's pretty severe. You know, so I think this is a good start, and I really hope to move forward on this issue. And I will tell you that, you know, I've been, you know, obviously I ride my bike a lot of places and I walk a lot of places, and I am hyper vigilant. You know, I'm always looking at the eyes of the drivers, and when I cross the street, I'm looking at the drivers as I cross the street, and I've been in a number of near misses. And, you know, so I just think this is something we really have to look at. And I also might add to Sergeant Bales that my wife was caught up in one of the little traffic control operations, and I appreciate you doing that. And I think this is yeah, no. She was just had a discussion with the sergeant, and that was it. But I appreciate the fact that you're out there looking at these sort of things and are taking them very seriously.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Dickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for this report. This is really, really informative. And, you know, as things like this sometimes are, it raises probably more questions than answers because there's so much information in it. I do have a couple of comments. One of which, and I think Ms. Biddle sort of alluded to this a little bit, some of the things in here that, you know, the person was wearing dark clothing or the cyclist wasn't wearing a helmet, those things aren't illegal. Those things are legal, and I think we've talked about it's illegal to stick your foot out in the crosswalk, you can cross the street. So it sounds like maybe there is some education that needs to be done. For everyone. You know, I walk a lot of places, and I can say that, you know, I see pedestrians doing things, and I'm not suggesting that, you know, we've got more pedestrians at fault or more drivers at fault, but, you know, I have people walk out in front of me all the time, not a crosswalk, I mean, in a parking lot. I can't believe how many people, you know, you're in a parking lot of a grocery store, they just walk out of the store and walk right through the parking lot without looking. You know, I'm like, wow, did you not learn to, you know, look both ways? And I'm not suggesting that's the case in any of these, but it tells me we need some education. But also, you know, I think along with the crosswalk, operations that you're doing, you know, I see things when I'm crossing the street downtown. It is not uncommon to cross the street downtown where I have to walk outside of the crosswalk because a car has pulled all the way across the crosswalk. So I don't know if we're doing other kinds of education besides just, you know, to stop for people stopping, but what other kinds of things are drivers doing that they need to be educated on to look for pedestrians or that kind of thing. So I would say, you know, it would be interesting to see some of that, and whether it's you know, you're actually citing people, or if there's a way to do some sort of public education, we could reach, you know, a lot of people with any, I mean, obviously you've listed a lot of reasons why these things happen in here, so maybe we could do some sort of comprehensive public education on this issue. But would love to see, especially with the drivers, some other things like, you know, don't stop on the other side of the crosswalk, you know. And I mean, it's not very nice to have to walk out into the middle of the street because somebody's gone across the crosswalk, but that happens a lot. Things like that, or, you know, you're walking through the crosswalk you're in a, you know, a signalized intersection, and I still look to make sure they're going to stop because there's no guarantee they're going to stop. So some of those kinds of things that might take it a step further. But this is a great step, and this has been really helpful. I think will inform our next activities that we do with this issue.
Councilor Bednarz.
There's been a lot of good conversations here and a lot of good points that I would love to have made, whether it's being vigilant on our own, about our own walking and driving, or we do have a control in our community, somewhat of a control of where we put our streetlights and what we can do with that. I wanted to talk, remember that in the intoxication, it was several of these were the pedestrians who were intoxicated, several of them were the drivers who were intoxicated. So it's kind of goes, this sure looks a little bit of mutual kind of a responsibility, and it just depends on the circumstance. I was going to comment today, I was able to do two things, one of which was I finally used the pay and display on State Street. The first time I was headed to my alma mater at Willamette. I parked on the north side of State Street and hit the button that has the flashy lights so I could cross State Street. On the way back, I decided, you know what? I looked at the traffic and I said I was going to let it go. I didn't hit the light. I stood back about 5-6 feet from the edge and I waited till the cars went through, and then I walked. I didn't even push the light at that point. There was nobody there. I don't know. I'm a multimodal person. I run, I walk, bike and everything else, and I drive a car. And I can tell you, I'm hyper vigilant as a driver, but I'm always nervous that there's going to be somebody there that I just didn't see. I've had some scares, let's just put it that way. And the reality is, I'm going to continue to be very vigilant and ask that the people out there, whether they're the driver and I'm the walker, or I'm the driver and they're the walker, everybody needs to be vigilant, hyper vigilant.
Thank you. Councillor Nanke, followed by Councillor McCoy, and then Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I've actually been troubled by things I've been witnessing over the last couple of months as well. And I think right now, because of when it gets dark, on my way over here this evening, I counted 34 cars without their lights on. I've actually been working late over the last couple of weeks as well, and I see it at all times of the day and night. And I know our police officers are very vigilant as far as pulling those folks over, because there's the potential that they are operating under the influence as well sometimes, but not in normal commute traffic like what I saw coming over here and what I've seen for the last couple of weeks, because people start their trip, then the level of light goes down. There's enough luminescence from our street lights and neighboring vehicles that they may not even perceive any difference at all. That being said, with mornings on the cool side, I'm religious about cleaning every one of my windows off. You have real limited tunnel vision, depending again on how your windshield is, fogging in the morning or in the evening as well. And I've seen more people, coming back from the first bite of Salem or whatever it was at the fairgrounds over the weekend, where I consumed 0 wine and 0 beer. But my wife was in the car, and I was pointing out all the way home, can you see that person yet? Because I have very good eyesight. And it's like, oh my God. And a lot of our streets, we talk about sidewalks and no sidewalks, and I'm seeing every 10th person out on the road texting or some dang thing where you watch them weave. We're lucky it's not a bath of them out there, because it only takes a little bit of a drift. We had a public works employee for the county, I think it was, actually take a small child on Hawthorne. You got people with larger mirrors. We have very close proximity, and we're taught in school, wear something reflective. I mean, full black, almost invisible. Actually, driving over tonight, there was a guy on a bike. Couldn't even see him until I was right on him. I don't know how you deal with that, because that's educating every person in town. It's distressing.
Okay, we are going to hear from our police officers in a minute, but councilors keep raising their hands, and I keep writing down their names, and the next is Councilor McCoy, followed by Councilor Anderson, followed by Councilor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple questions. First, as I read the report, it just struck me, what is the definition of an unmarked crosswalk? That's sort of...
I'm Jerry Moore, Chief of Police. I'd like to let Ben answer some of these questions about enforcement, because he's been doing it, and I would like to point out it is now just recently Lieutenant Ben Bales.
Okay.
Congratulations. Nice.
Hi, Ben Bales, Lieutenant for Salem. Every intersection where roads cross is an unmarked crosswalk. So any area where two roads intersect is considered an unmarked crosswalk. And so it's one that's not painted, it doesn't have signage, it doesn't have lights, but it's still a crosswalk.
Okay, so basically the traditional corners, as it were?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Second thing, and this came up, I had a constituent call and tell me one of the speed radar signs that you reference here that you're starting to put up wasn't working. And I don't know if are they solar driven, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
in the winter, what happens? They don't work, or they work during the day? And
Well, when we initially installed those, sir, the solar panels they recommended us get have not been large enough. We've been swapping those out with Public Works. They are fixing that problem. It'll keep the battery charged longer, and they will function longer.
because I was going to say it was you guys going to dinner.
Sometimes.
I was going to dinner and going down Croson Creek about 8 o'clock in the dark, and it wasn't working. It was blank, and so anyway, you've answered the question.
No, that's right.
Yeah, so how fast were you going?
I don't know. It was blank.
All right. Counselor Anderson, followed by Counselor Lewis.
Thank you. I'll
Okay.
just make 3 short comments because I took a lot of time earlier. First one, as well as the Vision Zero, there's also some studies out about safe streets by the 880 organization with a gentleman named Gil Penalosa, who actually came to Willamette University about a year or so ago and gave a very informative, very interesting, sponsored by the Salem-Keizer Transit District. And I've already mentioned that to the city manager, and I know he's looked at it. So that's another resource you might want to use. The other one is speed. Speed is the factor here. You know, I've mentioned the 20, 30, 40 issue, and so I think we need to look at that again as part of the next report we get from you as to, you know, that's a systemic way to deal with this, and we have to look at the whole system, not at the individuals, individual driver, individual pedestrian, because the way the whole system is, you know, you can, with a certain system, you can almost determine some outcomes there that aren't going to be good. And finally, I want to thank the Biddles again for coming down, and I will tell you that I think this is the 2 Biddles are the face of the way the millenniums are going and the younger generation is going. You know, we try to get rid of our cars. We walk to church. We bike to our work. We walk to the grocery store. This is happening more and more. People are using their cars less. Especially of that generation. So I think that's something that's what's going to happen in the future. We're going to see more people on the streets and with the higher potential for conflict. So I think we really need to be vigilant here because this is the way things are going. Thank you very much.
All right, Counselor Lewis, and then I would like to move to the police department because otherwise we're all just saying the same thing now. So Counselor Lewis, and then that's it. All right.
I'll try and make some different comments, and I'm sure they will cause some frustration. I'll start by saying there are no grocery stores in Ward 8. And it's my perception that Vision Zero really is a hidden effort to get people out of cars. If you stop them from moving, people won't use them. You know, I agree with what everybody has said up to a point, and that is that some draw the conclusion that Salem, Oregon is a very unfriendly place for pedestrians. And I adamantly disagree. In the 15 years that I've lived here, I have seen the city of Salem starting to grow up, which means people are starting to walk more, bike more. That's a good thing. It also means that they're more vulnerable, and there are going to be accidents. That's what happens. Look at Portland. There are people hit by cars even in the daylight. And I understand there's nothing more useless than someone getting hit by a car. Absolutely useless. I don't think stopping the use of cars is the answer. I think it's training everybody, whether you're walking, riding a bicycle, or driving a car, to be more careful. Everybody. Whether you're crossing the street or driving down the street, be more careful. I think that's the message of the report. I think that's the message for everybody. I don't think there's a blame necessarily on one side or the other. And when I hear that Salem is unfriendly to pedestrians, I draw the line.
All right, thank you. All right, we will now move to the chief and the lieutenant.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I really didn't have any comments prepared, but listen to the discussion here today. I'd like to just comment on a few things. I appreciate the comments. I agree with everything that was said here tonight. I appreciate the Biddle's comments as well. I think they made a few things that I'd like to address, if I could. And I'd heard this earlier also, and that was the fact that there was potentially a belief that we were assigning blame to pedestrians for being hit by a car, and I can tell you that is certainly not the case, except maybe in a situation where they were intoxicated or. But the fact that people were wearing dark clothing was just simply a factor, and I thought it was very important that we pointed that out. And I will tell you on a whether it's Salem, Oregon, or Portland, or Eugene, when it's dark and raining, I will tell you it is very difficult to see people walking or biking. And that's not an indictment against anyone. It's just simply a fact. And I can tell you, I drive a lot, and I drive on streets like Pringle or Battle Creek, and I will come upon a bicyclist without lights, and I won't see them until they're 10 feet away from me. And I think that what that means is we really do need to try and educate our community about how to be safe. I could tell you stories. I jog with my black Labrador in the mornings, and I have my sweatpants on, and cars coming, and I think, well, they got their lights, they'll see me, and I get in front of them, and I'll tell you they don't see me. Several years ago, our ex-chief of police was hit at an intersection in broad daylight at an intersection, and I can tell you, just from my own driving, I've almost hit two people in the same intersection simply because of the A-frame in my truck blocks the vision as I'm going. I'm completely sober, I'm paying attention, yet I don't see people. So I think it behooves all of us to make sure that we understand our responsibilities as drivers, and we certainly educate our bicyclists and our pedestrians on ways to be safe, and I think that's something that all of our departments can do. The other comment I'd like to make was about, I think the bill has mentioned it would be important to know what's going on in the car, and I agree with them 100%. I can tell you, and I'll let Ben here pick me up if I miss anything, but I can tell you the things that we look for when we investigate an accident are speed, impairment, cell phones, what people are doing inside a vehicle that may have caused an accident. And all of the fatal crashes are reviewed by our district attorney for causation and whether criminal charges should be filed. It's not a decision we necessarily make, so I don't want people to think we're making decisions in a vacuum. We take a look, we present it to the district attorney, and we try to determine if a charge is warranted. So I'll leave it at that unless you have any questions. I too appreciate the efforts that the Public Works Department has made. I think many of our dangerous intersections are much safer. I think some of them are much brighter. I know Peter will attest that we'd asked for a blinking light across Commercial Street for 20 years simply because you're dodging cars trying to get across the street on some of these streets where the speed is an issue as well. So unless you have any questions, I don't think I have anything further. But thank you for allowing us the opportunity to report these to you.
Thank you. Lieutenant, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
No, Madam Mayor, I think he's covered it.
All right. Well, thank you both for being here. We really appreciate the work that you do every day and every night. Our city is safer because of you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I know that you will join with us or with any organization. I'm thinking in the community, perhaps we can get some of our service clubs to take this on as a project and to help really educate people, drivers and pedestrians and bicyclists. There's something, I'm sure, for each one of us to learn from all of this, and some new practices or behaviors that we could all put into place. Councillor Dickey.
Thank you. One thing I didn't mention was it would be interesting, because I know we talked about, I know when Councillor Anderson was mentioning the people who had been hit by cars recently, you included Keizer in there. And I know out in my ward where there's a lot of county, and the county doesn't always put sidewalks in. So we do have some pedestrian issues, and we're talking about people who, kids who live in the city who need to get to their school that's in the city, but they have to walk on the county road with no sidewalk. So, and I know Councillor Benjamin has a lot of county in his ward as well. So maybe any efforts that we might do that would include be able to include some of those county areas, especially where they connect with the city, that would be really fantastic. I would also say, on my way to church yesterday, I saw a lady polishing her nails while she was driving, literally doing this while driving. So it's out there, it happens. Yeah, I don't know. So it's a timely issue, I guess.
It rates right up there with the mascara application. I've seen that. Yeah. All right. I think that...
New items?
New item, absolutely. Councillor Nanki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, is this an item that's on the information
It is on
reports?
information items.
Okay. Which one is it?
It is 6C.
Okay.
Regarding the process to enact a tax on the sale of recreational marijuana.
Okay.
And I would like to make the following motion, that council refer a 3% tax on recreational marijuana to the voters at the next general election, following the procedures and limitations set forth in House Bill 3400 and following the timeline included in the staff report.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councillor Nanki and seconded by Councillor Anderson. Is there discussion?
Yeah, just briefly. We'd put in place previously a 10% maximum tax. Knowing that the legislature will prohibit folks from actually collecting that, and knowing that the taxes that will be allotted based on either the number of facilities or on a population basis will not be enough to cover our law enforcement costs associated with it, we should at least get what we can out of that process. 3% still is going to be, but we need to move forward with it and at least try to cover our costs for a new service that's being provided in our community.
All right, Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, I had a question for legal counsel. And I'll use this word, the ordinance that the city council passed, can we just leave that on the shelf and wait and see if maybe that might materialize and be okay later?
That depends. Is that a good city attorney answer? The issue with that is if we refer a different tax to the voters, and then at some point in the future that tax is adopted, the voters approve it, and that tax goes on the books, and then we decide we can increase our rate because the state law is invalid or something like that, you've still got a law that's been approved by the voters, and you might have to go back out to change that as opposed to just relying on the old ordinance. Haven't looked at that closely, but that would be my initial take on that.
Well, before doing away with it, I would want us to do that. I mean, you know, I wouldn't want to throw it away unless it's absolutely useless.
Well, if I may.
I think that Councillor Anderson has his hand up.
I defer
Or you want to defer? All right, Councillor Nanki, go
Just in
ahead.
regard to the legislative session that's coming up, I've been told by people who are following it very closely that that extra 2 words will be added to the legislation. Before it was, you couldn't enact any. We grandfathered in front of that. They will add the words "or collect," which will basically make the ordinance that we put it in place moot.
Okay.
All right, Councillor Anderson?
that obviates the need for me to ask my question.
All right,
And so I won't even tell you what my question was.
all right.
You're in suspense. I'm in favor of this. I think we ought to enact the tax, and I think we ought to start the process now.
Talk about revenue all the time.
I would like to ask, I have a question, and that is, normally before, I thought that normally before we move ahead on something like this, there would actually be some staff presentation, there'd be some further discussion to educate us. I don't feel at this moment tonight that I'm prepared to vote on anything having to do with marijuana. It's certainly not having to do with a motion that's just come from out of an information report. Normally we'll go back and have, give staff time I would like to know more about the implications of this whole process. So I would vote no on this motion. Councillor Nanki.
And yeah, I have no problem modifying my motion to have staff bring back a further report. The majority of it is contained inside. I suppose the question would be for staff, is there anything that's not in this that would provide us more of a background and where we go from it as far as the event list and knowing what our previous ordinances?
We can certainly provide additional information. The report is more of just the procedures necessary to move forward. We could provide you more information on what the tax would include, maybe a better guesstimate, and I mean a guesstimate, on expected revenue.
Yeah, because that was one of the
If there's
holes
other
that was.
information that council would like, we'd be happy to bring that back as well. As an alternative, the next step at this point would be to prepare an ordinance, and that would come with the staff report, be part of a future report that council could consider.
Councillor Bennett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure I understood in terms of the motion. When would the election be?
November 2016,
It'd be a November vote.
next general.
Which would be at the same time as a potential bond measure.
Correct.
Would the city of Salem then be responsible for paying for that portion of the election when it's in a general election?
That's correct, but the costs would be fairly minimal.
Okay. All right. Councillor Benjamin.
So if I heard this correctly, the state of Oregon said 3%
Is the maximum.
is the maximum. So to get more information, well, should we go 1 or 2%? I don't think that's the direction of this council. So we can't look and see ways of doing 4 or 5, but so 3 is where it's at. Getting it on the general election at the same time with bond measure might be helpful for voters to understand that there is other ways of revenue coming in.
Councillor Bednarz.
I'm with the mayor in this one, where I believe I need more information about how to collect it, who's going to collect it, how we're going to. We don't have this kind of thing already in place in our community, do we? Not that I know of. I mean, the taxes that are currently collected, they come through the county or state, don't they?
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
So we currently collect TOT under a similar sort of system. So the hoteliers who collect the tax on our behalf, they remit it to us and we audit their books and whatnot. It would be a similar sort of system.
So we have relatively few, well, actually we probably have more hotels than we have dispensaries currently.
I would hope so.
Yeah, you'd hope so. I'm just trying to figure out the process out. I need more information, and I'd like to give staff, and knowing that the general election's clear over into November, I don't see any problem with letting staff put together a report and coming back to us.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councillor
Yeah, and in the
Nanki.
timeline, it basically, if staff is to bring us an ordinance, we could choose to continue at that point or choose not to continue, and first reading at the latest would be May 23rd. So we're talking 3.5 to 4 months before that ordinance has to come through. I would contend that at bringing back of an ordinance, then we can see if there's still any confusion as to the process. This lets them at least start going on that and bring something back to us to look at and say, do we want to continue from there or not?
Well, if I'm reading this report correctly, the recommendation is that we not impose the tax under the existing ordinance.
Correct.
So you're recommending then that we would, staff would draft a new ordinance and bring that back to us, and we would vote on that ordinance?
Correct, following the procedures laid out in House Bill 3400.
I see. So what you're suggesting for your motion now is simply to direct staff to take those next steps?
Actually, yes, and if I, were you my second?
Yes.
If I could modify my motion to actually read that council approve staff preparing an ordinance in line with the limitations of House Bill 3400 regarding a 3% tax on recreational marijuana for the council to review and determine our next course of action.
I still support that motion.
Okay. All right, is there any further discussion? Then the motion on the floor is the one that Councillor Nanke has just made. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, say nay. All right, that motion passes. Thank you.
Because the original motion actually referred 3% to the voters.
All right, were there any other items on the information reports that anyone had questions or comments on? Councillor Anderson?
Yeah. The trees, which is 6C. Again, I'm sorry, I don't have my reading glasses on, sorry. Okay, as in elm, thank you. As opposed to C as in cottonwood.
Because we don't.
Or no,
Yeah.
as in white oak.
Yeah, well, we could go on, but we're not.
Yes, all right, we're not.
I've stopped.
Thank you.
I would draw the attention to one of the increases to the agenda information reports, 6E, impacts to oak trees on Bush's Pasture Park. That's some very good work that has been done by folks in SCAN, the Parks and Recreation Committee, and the Historic Preservation Committee, to look at these issues. And I see Mr. Keiver's in the audience here, and you know, I'm satisfied that this has historically been a problem in Bush's Pasture Park because we got the size of the trees, the age of the trees, and it has nothing to do with the art fair being there. But I think it might have something to do with, and I think this was acknowledged, with the irrigation problems, with maybe cutting too closely around the tree, because you can see some pictures of where a lawnmower or something hit the tree, and that creates a, you know, I don't know what the arborist term, but an owie on the tree, or that ends up creating problems because it doesn't go away, it doesn't actually heal, and there's some issues. So I think we should continue to monitor this, and I know that the folks in SCAN and the Friends of Bush's Pasture Park will be very interested in looking at this, because these are fantastic trees there, and I commend the Parks Department for replacing the trees and the overall plan there. But you know, we really need to keep as many of these as we can, and if there's some way we can change the parks procedure around those trees, I think that would be very important to do.
Okay. Were there any other questions or comments about the reports? All right, thank you. We're going to move now on to the ordinances. The first reading, would the recorder please introduce the ordinance?
Ordinance Bill Number 1-16, relating to amending the Salem Transportation System Plan, a component of the Salem Area Comprehensive Plan, and amending Salem Revised Code Section 64.005.
Thank you. The recommended action is to conduct the first ordinance reading. Do we have a motion, Councillor McCoy?
I move the stack recommendation.
All right, it's been moved by Counselor McCoy and seconded by Counselor Bednarz to approve the staff recommendation, which means to conduct the first ordinance reading and advance it to second reading. Are there any questions or is there any discussion? All those in, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Counselor Anderson?
I know there was an issue raised about some language in the transportation system plan as to what the funding issues meant, and I see Transportation Planner Warnicki is here, and I know we had some discussion about that, and I know that some changes were made to alleviate any concerns about any ambiguity in that at the Planning Ordinance, Planning Commission's review of the ordinance, and I'm specifically looking to page 5 of the draft of the Salem TSP introduction dated January of 2016 under plan consistency. And I want to thank the Planning Commission and the staff for looking at that one sentence and changing it so there are no questions about its ambiguity. So thank you.
All right, are we ready for the motion or call for the question? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And we have a second reading. Would the recorder please introduce ordinance bill number 2-16 and call the roll?
Ordinance Bill 216, declaring certain territory located at 2415 Dokes Ferry Road Northwest, annexed to the City of Salem, prescribing zoning and withdrawing the territory from the Salem Suburban Rural Fire District. Counselor Bennett?
Aye.
Counselor Anderson?
Aye.
Counselor Nanki?
Aye.
Counselor McCoy? Aye. Counselor Dickey?
Aye.
Counselor Benjamin?
Aye.
Counselor Bednarz?
Aye.
Counselor Lewis?
Aye.
Mayor Peterson?
Aye. Thank you. All right, public comment. Do we have anyone? Oh, we have another ordinance. Oh, I'm sorry. 7.2B, ordinance bill number 316.
Ordinance Bill Number 316, declaring certain territory located at 1035 Hoffman Road Northeast, annexed to the City of Salem, prescribing zoning and withdrawing the territory from Marion County Fire District Number 1. Counselor Anderson?
Yes, aye.
Counselor Nanki?
Aye.
Counselor McCoy?
Aye.
Counselor Dickey?
Aye.
Counselor Benjamin?
Aye.
Counselor Bednarz?
Aye.
Counselor Lewis?
Aye.
Counselor Bennett?
Aye.
Mayor Peterson?
Aye. Thank you. Now, public comment, and I think we have someone signed up. We do. All right, Evan White, followed by Ron Sturba. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Councilor. I'm Evan White with the cold
Yes,
from
you
Ward
do
7.
have a cold. We're sorry.
I am too.
Sorry.
I became interested in city council issues about 7 years ago after a contractor dug out 1,200 cubic yards of earth from the toe of the hillside I live on, about 100 dump truck loads. I soon learned that my hillside is mapped for landslide risk, that no soil report had been prepared, that the city does not require any permits or soil reports, and that any losses I might suffer would not be covered by homeowners insurance, and I might be time barred from recovering damages. Salem does have a grading ordinance, SRC 65, which protects only city property, not homeowner property. SRC 65 could be amended to protect homeowners from unsafe excavations, which is the practice in other cities. A better plan would be a new ordinance that follows Appendix J of the Oregon Structural Specialty Code, same as the equivalent chapter in the International Building Code. 9 months ago, Public Works finally did develop a draft ordinance, but it appears to be stuck somewhere in the city and has not surfaced for a public hearing and vote. Now, I'm 76 years of age. Every morning I notice in the Statesman Journal that men younger than me have died. Will I live long enough to see the city adopt a grading code that protects homeowners? At the last council meeting, I said that Portland, Corvallis, and Eugene all have grading codes and higher property values. This is not rocket science. Even Silverton has a grading code. Several of my friends have said that sometimes things take longer when it's something that staff does not want to do. Others say that perhaps staff fears that they might be held accountable by the public. So to help move things along, I have two gifts for city staff. I have the 160-page legal aspects of code administration for you, Dan, published by the International Code Council. Peter and Glenn, I have for you the 400-page excavation and grading, code administration, inspection, and enforcement. You're very welcome.
Depending on its value, we may not be able to accept.
Did that conclude your remarks?
That's it.
I think there's a question, Counselor Bennett, and then Counselor Bednarz.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Evan, it's beginning to, because we've talked about this for several years, and I'm going to ask staff about kind of where are we, because I've made a couple motions about this over the past few years, see if we could get this moved forward. But it's beginning to feel like either we're going to figure out a way to keep you alive or we're going to pass this thing here soon. So I'm in favor of keep you alive. I think Glenn probably appears to be too, because he isn't going to bring this ordinance. Where are we, Glenn, on this ordinance? Or Peter, whoever's in charge.
We've done all the drafting. We've done the public reviews. It's in final review and just this close to coming out to the council.
Thank you.
Hallelujah.
Okay. Give it a few more months then, Evan.
Okay.
Stay with us.
Is that it?
Yep.
All right. Well, I hope your cold goes away very soon. Oh, Counselor Bennett has, Counselor Bednarz has a comment.
Reverse here. Anyway, I just wanted to mention, I've known you now for roughly 4 years at this point, and this has been an issue that you've worked on constantly in those 4 years that I've known you. I also know that we are picking up in the amount of development that's happening, mostly residential, in this community. Certainly there's been a lot of plans that are going through pre-sites. Point that I'm trying to bring is that this thing needs to be resolved before we get more houses built, more subdivisions put in that are going to take out soil. And I hope staff comes back with this. It sounds like, as I mentioned to you before the meeting, sometimes the wheels either grind slowly or they grind very quietly in the background, but they are still grinding away nonetheless. So let's see what happens, and we'll continue to push.
All right. Thank you very much. Ron Sturbaugh.
Good evening, Ron Sturba, 520th Street Northeast, Salem, Oregon. I have to commend all the counselors and the police, the chief of police, on their comments about safety and lighting, something I've been coming to the city council for a long time to talk about. One thing mentioned tonight was to save money, do one project all at one time rather than over a several-year period. This was on the internet about Seattle's new LED light. I'd like to read this one portion. The bad news, despite extensive, much-touted prior testing, the city has been installing these new street lights in a crude one-size-fits-all fashion. Folks, that's why I'm here. We have crosswalks. We have 3-lane streets. We have 2-lane streets. We have streets on hills. We can't have one size fits all. And I think the city needs to follow a plan by one of the leading manufacturers, a municipal guide for converting to street lighting. It's a very good guide, and also I want to say I have a plan. My wife and I walk some 35 miles a month in the downtown area of Salem. If on each one of the crosswalks, above the crosswalk sign that says walk, don't walk, is to put a floodlight located about 12 feet off the surface that lights both both crosswalks going across the street when you push the button. That will light up that area where the person is standing and give them recognition to the driver. And I think it's really important, and I've seen that done, as well as full cutoff lighting or down lighting in intersections. No angle lighting. That causes glare. We're not all the same. Our eyes start to deteriorate after 40. What we can see, Some people can't see, some people can. So we need to be able to cover all the bases. And I think this lighting at the intersection of crosswalks is a start, and I think we should implement one intersection here in Salem to do it. The power's on the pole already. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Sturba? Yes, Councilor Benjamin.
Just a quick comment. That seems like a neat idea.
Pardon me?
That seems like a neat idea. Downtown, have the lights, so that when you push it, the light comes on,
That's correct.
and then all of a sudden, you're driving down the road, and boop, oh, look at there. There's a light on, there's a pedestrian standing right there.
Yes.
And then, of course, you have your higher-up lights to kind of give a luminosity across the area, but
That is correct.
just have that button push that. It'll be on for about 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, even before and after the pedestrian has crossed, it's still there.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. Thank you. Thanks very much for coming down. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Was there anyone else in the council chambers this evening that wanted to testify for this portion of the public comment and didn't get a chance to be on the list? No, I guess not. All right. That brings us to our next item, which is new business, mayor's item. And I appreciate so much the city councilor's willingness to meet with me and talk about city council assignments. All of the assignments are now completed, and you find in your agenda packet the actual list of assignments. And I want to make a comment for the community. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should have counted. There are about, I don't know, 18, maybe almost 20 committees that counselors serve on, and I want to say thank you very much, because our counselors are doing an incredibly difficult job. In many cases, they're employed full-time, but they make time for meetings during the day when they can. They visit with neighborhood associations regularly with their neighborhoods, and then in addition, they serve on these council committees. So I want to say thank you to all of the counselors, and I was just really very, very impressed with everyone's dedication to the work that's going on in all of these different council committees. So that's the last thing on our agenda this evening. Yes, would you like to say something?
Sorry,
Yes, you got something to
last
say.
word freak here.
Okay.
On the public hearing that you voted on tonight, until we bring back a written decision for your adoption, it's still a quasi-judicial matter, so please refrain from communicating with the public regarding the substance of the hearing. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we are adjourned.
Very nicely done.